Let's talk herd. Sometimes I feel like there's this third way and I wanted to ask you about this anyway, like what you feel about the the idea of conditioning, because I feel like horses are very easy to condition. And when I talk about condition, I mean that you do something and they do something in response. And there's nothing wrong with that, as it's like a pathway. It's like you're creating pathways. But for me, it always felt like it was limited in some way, because it was making it all about what you did, like as a trainer or as a rider. So if you did something, the horse would do something, and it seemed to take it out of the present moment for me. Whereas I preferred this feeling of connecting with them in a therapeutic way that was very unique. Like every day was different, and every aid was different, and every feeling in the horse was different every day. So there wasn't this pathway that was already set up. So how do you feel that relates to what you do? It's maybe a kind of tricky question. I don't know.
I think it's within it. I mean, I think it's within it, but I definitely see your exploration of that being really paramount within what you do. And I think it's kind of back to like when we talked earlier and doing what you do in your entire space, is that safe space. And it is for us here at home. But when we're going somewhere, like I do need those pathways that we both know what to expect when we meet there, and then within that, there's freedom. But I totally can feel into what you're describing, and I feel like for me, that's where the spaces come up of being open to the horse's invitation of what they would like to do and the things that they offer. And they certainly do offer things, and then we do those things together. But there's still a cue for it that so that it's something I can invite on purpose in a situation. And there's a difference. I feel like there's a little bit of a different taste in what you're describing. And I think what you're describing is also beautiful. And I think the exploration of exploring like the horse's freedom to share, what they would like to do in this moment, with no limitations, as long as it's safe for the both of you. I think it's important that we go to those spaces in all different ways, because that's where very new things can be birthed. I think that we have to be careful about the pathways that we are using, and to know that they're the ones we want to use. That we've picked them on purpose, and that they actually are supportive and support the birthing of what it is that's in our best interest, so to speak. Though I don't really like that word for it, but that's in this unified place, where you and the horse meet. Back to what you said about the comfort aiding. I think that's really beautiful too. And I think to think about our body, and when we ride, as in our legs and our intentions, to not always be just about a request to get the horse to do something, but also, a request for comfort and relaxation. And those are really the aids, so to speak, that are really important for me to have with magic when we go into these places, because that's kind of back to that concept of like kind of having the easy chair in the middle of the arena. It's like we can go to those places of comfort together. And it helps to have a cue, a position, a thought, an intention that all comes together to mean, I know that the outside is scary, but remember we're in our bubble,
Mm.
and then I think there's also a reality where the bubble is everywhere. You're at home. You have intentionally created your home to be this glorious bubble. And, you connect with the trees and the earth and the horses and the herd as a whole and all the spaces in between. And you can really have faith in that space and go deep into that energetic and allow that vibration to arise and then be what that vibration is. And I don't see the two as separate, but I do see them as, I guess, different, in a way, but in a supportive way, where there's also, synchronicity as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that just hearing you talk about those mechanisms or structures that you rely on, I would say, I just kind of realized that how I would translate that in what I do with a horse if we're working together. That would be the straightness, that would just be straightness that you naturally, like if you're somewhere with a horse and the horse is upset or worried, then you just go into that, you channel that into moving straight, and that just has a sort of series of natural physiological responses. Like as soon as the horse begins to bend then properly, like straight, and they'll begin to stretch down and telescope their neck, and then they lift their back, and then then their TMJ starts to relax. So it's like that is really, and that comes into everything, like trimming their feet, asking for them to be able to be balanced and to be standing straight so that they can, lift their foot and hold it up. And so, I think we're in agreement about that there is that, just I would say it's very physical, and it's very, the thing that I love the most about, I would say, about riding and training and all of that aspect of things is that there really is this whole physiological thing that exists, and it doesn't have to be, it's like you condition it in terms of, not the way I was using the word condition before, but you condition it like you condition yourself to do gymnastics or something. Like you have to condition it in the body and become strong, but it's there, like in every horse and in every it's like we can all do, I'm trying to think of it, like martial arts. I don't know what like an equivalent would be, some kind of yoga, but there is this actual thing that completely transforms any horse, as long as they can do it physically, as long as they can. Often they can't, because they've got vertebrae that are, tight or in spasm, and that stops them being able to lift their back and do, so then they resist, and you get that whole thing.
Well, I think, I feel like you're pointing to, it's alignment. I mean, like that straightness training, which of course is also on a bend. That straightness is that alignment, through our chakras and through our physical, our energetic nature being aligned with our physical nature, and being open within each one of those chakras, all the way down, all the way up within that. So not having, being able to recognize where those blocks. So I think that comes back to the relaxation, to that comfort zone, to finding that place where the horse and the human are able to become aligned and become open within all of their spaces. And I think that's where the challenge exists is I mean, it's hard enough to do that in our body ourselves, and then, to do it with any other beings, if that are not in alignment. And I think that's where that pathway that just really helps to have that pathway of awareness I really don't like how that just came out, like with other beings that are not in alignment. I really don't mean it like that. I mean what happens to me. I mean, seriously, I mean what happens
Yeah.
to me when I perceive and feel the energy around me, and then I become out of
Mm.
alignment because of what I perceive, that is oftentimes not true.
Yeah.
So being able to remain, true to that inner alignment, straightness, alignment,
Mm.
and the horse, the horse doing that, and then these things that are so beautiful that you're speaking to, of the herd just offering, in any moment. I mean, that can so naturally arise
Mm.
because you're in the position where basically you're ready, you're there,
Yeah.
you're able to physically and energetically and emotionally be yourself,
Yeah.
and so it just happens, and it is like magic in that way.
Yeah. I love the way that you just naturally talk about it in all the dimensions, because I tend to
Mm-hmm.
think of that kind of engagement as being quite a physical thing, but really, and then in another part of my mind is the alignment of the energy, but it is all one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I wanted to kind of set aside for a while the physical, because you get deeper and deeper into something. And I think when you do specialize in something so deeply, sometimes you can
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit blinkered. And I think that's what I was feeling, that I was.
Yeah.
And then the horses were starting to like back off from that because they were feeling like too, almost
Mm-hmm.
like they were being like, what's the word? Like, forced into into kind of,
Mm-hmm.
like into a passageway that they couldn't, there was no space
Mm-hmm.
because it was too much about the
Mm-hmm.
riding and the riding and the riding and like further and further down that way. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
in a way I wasn't really changing what I was doing. I was just like widening it, like realizing that it's a wider
Mm.
spectrum of like that it happens in more dimensions, and that it's also emotional. And I mean, it's not really separate at all. It's just like a bigger thing. So
Mm.
it's not just about a physical. And I think sometimes that trap's quite easy to get into, that you have these routines, going back to, that at the beginning, what we were talking about. You have these things that you do,
Mm-hmm.
and just incorporating how you actually feel with each other and how you listen to each other. And and that's such a beautiful example, your dream, because your dream is a whole new way of connecting and being in that
Mm.
relationship. And yeah, so it's really important to remember that, I think, or for me anyway, to remember that it's all the same alignment. And that what I really love is that physical thing comes back into it again. And I think it
Mm.
will at
Mm.
some point, but it'll be
Yeah.
less, more liberated within it.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
I love that.
So, so when you work
Mm.
with say you were going to work with a horse now, like a young horse, or how do you do that? Do you have a plan that I'm going to train the horses, or is it individual, or will you do liberty with all of the young horses, or how is it for you with your herd?
It's very different with each one. I am is he just stands there. I have to do this with
Mm,
him because he will not let me
yeah,
not
yeah.
do this with him. So I know that this is coming. But the way that we're going to do it is definitely going to be, I mean, there will certainly be similarities, But definitely it's going to have its own taste, because he is night and day from magic in a lot of ways. And then there's Helix, who's Iam's brother. And at one point, I didn't think, I wasn't sure because Helix, talk about a free spirit. I mean, and he has this swirl on the small of his back, like over his loins area, that's like a tornado. That's how he got the name Helix. And, there's all this swirl research, but it's one of the things about swirls they say is that you never want them over the horse's hindquarters because they're like sure to buck and be crazy. Anyway, he's just like totally free, and his mind goes 100 miles an hour, and he's into everything. And so I really don't know what that's going to look like, is all I can say about that. But I know that he wants to do it because if his brother gets to do it, he's going to have to do it. And I know that I want to do it because I just, magic and Iam and Helix all together, just the bliss, like I cannot help but at least explore. Like I love your thought of the striving to be like more exploring, because it is that. It's a stretching and exploring, but I cannot help but want to work towards that. But I really don't know quite what it's going to look like, and quite how, we're going to get there. I do know that everything that I've been learning with magic is helpful, deeply, deeply helpful, because it's for her, it's all about clarity. And if it's clear and clean and she comprehends, she's there instantly. And so it really helps me be more clear within my own energy, my own body, my own mind. And that can do nothing but help the process with them, So, yeah. That didn't really answer your question, though, but because I don't know.
Well, no, it did, because I think it's lovely that there is just that freedom of allowing it to become, and just, not have this kind of way that you do it and, imposing that. Yeah, it's perfect, really. And I think also it's important, like talking to myself here, not to impose the other way as well, like not to impose any kind of limitation, maybe, because it's easy to get into that. Like, I don't do this with horses, and and it is different every day. So, and I think that's where the joy in it is, just that freedom, like knowing that there's no rules and that there's nothing you have to do, and there's no, they don't have to have a purpose, or because the purpose is just, it came to me the other day that, because I was thinking about that thing about what's the purpose of riding, and because Elsa Sinclair, she said that for her it really helped to feel like there was a purpose, and that you were going from A to B, like that you were going somewhere, actually physically going somewhere on a horse. And I was thinking about that, what the purpose is, and really the purpose is just the joy of doing it, isn't it? It's like, and I think when it's a joy for you, then it's a joy because you allow it to instruct what you're doing, that joy, then it does, it creates a space for that, and the horse enters that. So it can't be mutually exclusive. I think if you really do love it, then the horse will too. Just,
love the process of it.
Yeah, because I suppose we attract the horse into our life who wants to be with us, don't we?
Yeah, so I was just thinking before you said that, and I'm glad you said, so I feel like I see this in myself. So I feel like, like why do we do what we do with our horses, and how we, why are certain ones the way they are? And I totally see, like with magic, I see this in me, this desire to be able to be brave enough to go out in the world and be who I am and be steadfast in that, like stand in that place of who I am and do it in front of people, right?
Yeah.
There's been that desire since I was little, and also a feeling of inadequacy in that. And so I feel like in her, there's this place where I've found this brilliant partner that I can do that with. And of course, she's not only here to serve me; she has her own stuff, and she has her own things she's working through, and her own personal evolution. So it's also like she's come to me because there's something in her to be experienced and expressed, and moved through her body into form, and thus back into, the energy of the world, and back to dirt, and then back to life and death and all that. But then I think about Iam, and this brilliant, and Helix too, these babies that were born here on our property. And it's like, what did I do but leave them with their mothers, for they're 5.5. And, I mean, they nursed on their mothers for, 4.5 years. And I say none of this as it's wrong, because I totally don't think it's wrong. I did it. I also say it as with a little bit of a laugh, because it's like, I wasn't just doing it. Okay, I could say that I was doing it because, well, the world is too structured, and, there's too much of, and so I'm going to, allow. The truth is, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to feel in my body. I want to feel that free. I want to be able to nurse my mama however long I want to. And I want to be able to run out there with the herd, and I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. And, I want to be that free. And so I've enabled these, boys to be that free, and they are. And now I'm not sure how I'm going to train them, but I can. I mean, I can. I mean, they're tame. They're tame, but they're certainly not, like when you would call a horse mature. Like, they don't have the quality of maturity that people, that I would have meant when I said a horse was mature. Meaning, they'll stand tied quietly, and they'll be patient. Like, patience is nowhere in their vocabulary. And these are things that we do need to, going out into the world, if we're going to take our gifts and package them and share them, patience is a virtue. So it's not that this stuff isn't important, but it's going to be a wonderful, and I think very liberating and informative journey for me to explore, moving forward into the world with these two boys that are so liberated and free spirited. And they're never gonna, you could not take that out of them. They could, it is so who they are. There is no way it could be broken. They know who they are. It's like the child that was raised knowing who she was. And you cannot, you are not going to, she just knows, because she's not dependent on you to tell her. She just knows. And they just know. So it's beautiful. I mean, I love it. It's just going to be interesting, but I feel like I also brought them to me, and also they brought themselves to me. And we met in this place of my own desire for freedom, in this world. So it's just also fascinating.
No, I think that's so perfect. And I have the same thing with Karamba. Like, she doesn't have those conditioned behaviors, but I feel like those are a way of us humans not taking responsibility for our own behavior, in a way, our own, like, being present in each moment. So we kind of, this sounds a bit harsh, but we kind of shut the horses down so that it's more convenient, so that we don't have to be there and engage with them. And these horses who have been, like, encouraged to be who they are, they're so, you are aware, they're just present. They're just in that moment, and it's wonderful, really.
Speaking of a wild one, she's already, speaking of a very wild one that knows exactly who she is, and you don't tell her what to do. I can't even discipline. I tried disciplining the first one, and I would, like, take things away if I needed a little bit of control, right? I can't take anything away, because Mira's like, you can't take that from her. That's hers. She loves that. And she'll go like get it off the shelf, and give it back to her sister. So it's like, I just have to throw my hat to all of it.
Oh.
Who knows what this one is. It's all beautiful. It's all beautiful though. I love it all.
Yeah. It's the new paradigm.
It really is.
It's the newer, and I think it's right. I think it's where we need to go, because we have to, because then you're engaged with them all the time. Like you're in a new moment all the time.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
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 That is so true. We really do have to be present. It just means we have to show up in each moment. And yeah, there's definitely the desire to not show up and be able to just say, be quiet because I can't handle that right now.
And it's I think that it turns out so much more multidimensional, like the training relationship that you have with, those horses is just so much vaster because they are there fully.
Yeah. No, yeah, they're like back to what you were saying about how much you love creating that space for your horses to basically share their own ideas. Like that is what I Am and Helix bring to the table every moment. Like they have no hesitation, and it is something that a lot of horses don't know they can do. They don't know it's okay to say, "Hey, I'd like to do this," and and some of them are naturally more would rather not. Magic is not one of those that ever I think would be a horse that would be. She's just a little bit of a different. She certainly shares her desires, but she's not extroverted in the way that I Am and Helix are extroverted. She's like me in a lot of ways. But yet it is so true that so many situations with horses that perhaps would be very willing to share what they think, they just don't think they can. And it is a fine line because we need to be safe, and they're big, and if we're not safe, they're not safe. And so it's not like, they're definitely, so that being able to, communicate, and I can't like have them just run over me because they feel like running, and so it's, and one could say, well, if we were connected energetically enough, maybe they wouldn't. And they get to going and they just like to play. So it's like, it just feels, I just have to laugh because like I said, I have this, I know that I want to explore things with them, and I just don't know what it's going to look like because it's just going to look like something different than it has in the past. But I certainly, I encourage that, and I love that in all the horses. I mean, when I was doing clinics, that's kind of what it turned into, was like how to help your horse that thinks that they don't know how to share their voice. Like there's more horses like that that people are interacting with. It can be, so it's just all a beautiful exploration and perhaps even experiment might be a better word. So, in the best of ways. I love experimenting though. I love the process of all of it. I think that's what it comes back to for me, is that we've done some shows recently with Magic, and it's like one might think that like we did the show and it was like, that's the thing, and it's like we do it and it's just another day. The thing I want to do is get back out there and she and I connect on something that maybe I learned in the show that we could do differently. Like there's no, the way that I flow, it just keeps going, and I love that. And it's not, there's, it's not about the thing that we were trying to obtain. It really is about the process to get there. However, I love having a goal. I love having, something that kind of pulls that momentum as well and creates momentum. So,
And it sounds like it amplifies. Like,
for everything that I say, I could say the opposite.
I know, I feel like that sometimes.
Just want to say that.
But it does, it's that, yeah, I know. But it sounds like when you do the, like the, not competitions, but when you do the exhibitions, that it's like an amplification as well of what you do. So it's almost like it probably opens new pathways more powerfully as well. So it's got that. It's not just a goal in itself.
That's very true.
Yeah, like
it
an
does.
intensification.
That is so true. That's it. It does. It's a portal. It always feels like a portal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to say, just in my experience, that, and that's obviously not very much in terms of like the number of horses and humans that there are, but
it's a lot.
I would say that when they are awake, the horses, when they're kind of they're allowed to be themselves fully, that is when they're most safe, because they're most aware of you, and it's like you're most visible to them. So yeah, just that. I get that there's a lot of exploring to do and that we don't know yet, everything that can happen. But I feel like the most dangerous situation is when there's that horse has left their body and, there's just like that lack of connection. And yeah. So yeah, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Same goes for people.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.